Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We are Brad and Jazz, and together we are two Aussie thrifters, and we buy and resell from places like op shops, garage sales, auctions, and pretty much everywhere in between. On Tuesday, we let you know that we actually got hit with a couple Veros.
This is how I feel about Veros.
And today we're going to talk about what those Veros were. We're also going to go into what a Vero actually is because it's quite confusing. And we're going to share with you a couple common Veros that happen and how you can potentially avoid them yourselves. Let's get straight into it. So before we get into our particular situation with the Veros last week, I wanted to tell you what a Vero is, and it stands for Verified Rights Owners Policy. And I'm just going to read to you what the Vero policy says on actual eBay. So it says, we've created the Verified Rights Owners program so that intellectual property owners could report listings or products that infringe on their intellectual property rights. It is in eBay interest to ensure that infringement items are removed from the site as they are illegal and erode the trust of buyers and sellers. Okay, so with the Vero program, there is a list on eBay that goes through the companies currently registered under the Vero program, and I'll link this all in the description so you guys can go have a closer look. However, the problem with the Vero program is that anybody with the intellectual rights to that particular item or property can actually submit a Vero request at any point in time. So that list is very hard to keep up with. It's never updated because anything could change at any point in time. So while we're here, I thought we'd talk about some of the most common Veros that happen and ones that we see in and around the community pretty often, and then a couple that I've heard happening to people in the community recently. So the ones that come straight to my head are Velcro and Kevlar. Now, if you have those two names in your titles, Vero is a very strong possibility. So never use Velcro, use hook and loop instead. And the other one, as I said, is Kevlar. Now, obviously there's a lot of like dragon jeans and stuff that have Kevlar in them. And there are little ways of getting around it. I've seen people spelling Kevlar wrong. However, we just write lined, and most people that buy dragon jeans know that they're Kevlar lined. So try to avoid those two because they are very common, and those two brands are very hot on making sure that their rights are preserved. Now let's talk about a couple that I've seen in the community recently to keep an eye out for as well. And I know the Aussie Flipper recently had some issues with some Nikes. There is a parallel import Vero set up with some Nikes because they're only sold in certain regions. So I was actually talking to Matt about it at the time, and I thought that might be the issue, and it turned out that it was. So when you're listing Nikes, you can either do a bit of research and see what regions they're sold in, but that is quite difficult. Otherwise, maybe don't put American or international shipping on, because sometimes you will get hit with those. I think you got hit with 3 or 4 at the same time. It's definitely not worth losing your store over a Vero just to sell some shoes overseas. The other Vero that we've had in the past was selling like government issue workwear. So we had an Australia Post like work jacket with the logo on it, and that got pulled pretty quickly because there's a policy under the Vero program where you're not allowed to sell government issue workwear, because essentially what they're saying is that anyone could buy that and then impersonate a government worker. So definitely be aware of that. There's a few ways that I've seen people getting around that, but in general I'd probably try to avoid listing that stuff on eBay. Maybe try and move it more closely on places like Facebook Marketplace or Gumtree and places like that. Okay, now we've talked about what types of Veros are out there and a few that are pretty regular. I wanted to tell you what can actually happen with the Vero program. And this has come straight from the eBay website, so I'll actually share the screen with you guys so that you can see what I'm talking about. So as you can see on the screen here, we have the Vero policy, and it says if a seller's listing or product was removed. Sellers who believe their listing or product was removed in error can learn more about this through another link. Activity that doesn't follow eBay policy could result in a range of actions, including, for example, administratively ending or cancelling listings, which is pretty common with Veros. Usually you'll get an email that says, we've removed these listings from eBay. And if you're lucky and haven't had too many Veros before, it'll just be a warning. But if you have had a few Veros in the past, and especially if they're in similar types of categories in the same sort of Vero policy, you can have restrictions and even suspensions against your account. And I found this interesting. This part of this says, hiding or demoting all listings from search results. So that's something that people have talked about before, not only just in Vero programs, but when other things happen. And a lot of people have had conjecture around that eBay don't have the power to hide your listings, but it's pretty clear they do. It says it in their policy right here, so be very careful when you're listing these things. It goes on to say buying or selling restrictions, as I just said, and account suspension. So Veros are a pretty serious thing. If you have too many Veros in a period of time, you can get suspended off eBay, and I've seen it happen to people, and it's a horrible thing to deal with because a lot of the time we don't actually have all the information in our hands to be able to make these decisions appropriately to make sure that we're not violating this Vero policy. Okay, time to talk about our individual Vero issue that happened last week and what has happened since then. So our Vero was quite an interesting story, and I want to tell you guys a little bit of background info so that you can try to avoid this as well. So I got an email, I think it was Thursday or Friday last week, saying that we had 4 listings pulled from eBay and they were all HP products. And my first thought was parallel import issues, because in the past we've had a couple HP items pulled because we were shipping to the EU and they're not allowed to be sold within the EU. However, I didn't have international postage on any of these specific HP items, so that theory was out the window straight away. So I read further into the email, and essentially it was saying it had more to do with the photos that were in the listing. So they were saying that the photos were the intellectual property of Hewlett-Packard. However, this was interesting because these photos were actually from the eBay catalog. So quite a long time ago, we bought a whole bunch of ink and it was all brand new, all sealed, all in very good condition. So when we listed it, we used eBay's catalog photography in our listing so that we didn't have to take individual photos every single one when they were exactly the same as the catalog listing. So you can only do this if the product is new and there isn't any damage to the product. So we tick both of those off. And the only reason that HP actually picked up on this was because I had ended these and relisted them because they've been sitting there for a long time and I wanted to get them back up in search. So I found this very interesting that they've been sitting within eBay for quite a while with no activity. And then as soon as I relist them, HP hit me with these Veros. So after getting notification that we had these Veros, I jumped on chat to find out what their view on this was, because my understanding of the photo policy was that we were able to use these catalog photos as long as our items met those criteria. So I'll share with you on the screen a little bit of the chat transcript that I had with eBay. Essentially, they confirmed that my assumption was correct and that I needed to contact HP myself and find out from them what the issue was. So I sent HP an email that said, look, this is the issue. My items got reported for Vero. However, I was using eBay catalog items. So if there is an infringement of your intellectual property, then it's not my issue, it's eBay's issue. Now, eBay give them 5 days to respond to me, and today is the 5th day. I am yet to hear anything back from them. So eBay have told me if I haven't heard back from HP by the end of today, I can contact them and they will step in for me and make this apparently go away. So let's see what happens. But essentially this is sort of what I think is going to happen. Mr. Beadley Kain, is it? Sorry mate, it's Brad. My name's Hewitt from Hewlett-Packard. I have received your email, and however I do find your points valid. I don't really care. But it's eBay's catalog photos. I hereby decree that the decision will stand and you will have issues on eBay forever. So thank you very much, Mr. Hewitt. We will definitely keep you guys in the loop and let you know what is happening with this and if we get any solutions. I'm not expecting big things, unfortunately, so I guess the only solution here is don't use stock photos ever, because even if you are using eBay's catalog, there's ways that you can still get stung for this, which is very unfortunate. Let us know in the comments below if you've had any Veros lately and what they have been and how you got around them, so everyone can avoid these situations in the future. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time on Aussie Thrifters. Bye for now. Well, that Beardley fellow is a bit of a douche, isn't he? Linus, where's my caviar?